Welcome viewers and listeners to our next British business podcast in the series, and I'm delighted to welcome to Mayfair today Nicola Coppen from an organisation, a not-for-profit organisation called Revolves for Goals. I'm delighted to meet you, Nicola. It's fantastic that you've come in today. What we'd like to hear from you is all about you, about your background, about your journey, and where you are today, and what Revolves for Goals means. I've had an amazing conversation with you already. I can't wait to hear some of the things you're going to talk to us about.
Yeah,
Can you start off with your background?
Yeah, of course. So I was born in Greenwich, and everyone who knows me gets to know that very important fact, because I'm one of 4 children and I'm the only one that was born in London.
Oh, I see.
So it's very special to me. It is my favourite place, and I have got the nickname of Princess Lala because of the fact that I go on about Greenwich and how royal and how it took them so long to make it a royal borough. I'm a Cheltenham fan.
Okay.
And I used to, with my dad and my brother, go to all the home and the away games.
Okay.
And so sport is a really big thing, although I'm a professional supporter as opposed to a sports person.
Okay.
When I lived in Dubai growing up, used to do loads of sport. You know, it was always on the agenda, and we were part of country clubs, and you know, I learned to swim out there, which is a great place to learn to swim because it's warm. And I come back here, and all of a sudden, sports was so low on the agenda, and it was very restricted.
Okay.
And I can just remember it being a real crushing thing to me as someone that used to play tennis, badminton, squash, you know, do loads and loads of swimming. I mean, we'd done rowing, sailing. There was just so much out there, and obviously the climate is good. It was a time where it was private funding in effect, because Dad was sponsored to be there and to have us go over, but it really was sort of a hang on a minute, and it's cold here, and I've got to do either netball or, you know, things that I really had no want to do. So I am that person who, when everyone was devastated that they might be the last person that's picked in a, you know, in a team, I was the one going, don't pick me, don't pick me, don't pick me, I'll help, I'll do it. But, you know, going and seeing Cheltenham with Dad and my brother, you know, really special, and it's sort of testament to the fact that I kept that element of sport going, even if I didn't do other stuff. Then my first job was actually helping with a facilities management company who literally sacked someone on the Friday and said to me, are you available? Could you come in and just help man the phones on the Monday? And what I managed to do was kind of set up the office for them. So that's where my organisational skills really started, which now I, you know, quite openly can say OCD is you know, it's a good thing for me, because I think that's, I can't sit and do nothing. I've got to be doing something. So I set that up, got on really well, and eventually I ended up in project management. And I was at the AWE Aldermaston, which is atomic weapons establishment. It was an absolutely fantastic place to work, and I went in with Atkins and was a PA to one of the sort of the site directors, and then the actual sort of head of the directorate said to my then boss, I think you're really good at project, you know, why don't you try project management? And I was like, I don't know what it is. And he said, well, good news for you, you've really been doing it. You know, it's just the fact that we can formalise it. So actually he sponsored me, and, you know, bearing in mind I wasn't an AWE person, he just turned around and said, you've got to get, and that's really how my growth as someone in construction started. And what I love about construction is I have been a part of some amazing things to do, whether or not it's about refurbing buildings. I was lucky enough to work at Harrods as a CDM coordinator, because again, my company recognised that, you know, actually health and safety's got a good thing about this with project management. I've worked on rail. I've worked Ebbsfleet Development Corporation as an infrastructure project manager, and everything that I've done has been a case of, I know I've changed something, even though people can't see it. Yeah. And my absolute best project, I would say, is for UK Power Networks, and putting a new power supply in from one side of the Thames across to another side of the Thames, right the way through a housing association area. And the things that I've done, it took me till 2017 and winning a Women in Business Award, where I actually was not expecting to win it. And I got up and I found myself saying, I always wanted to know what it is I was going to do when I grew up. And I think I've just found out.
What a great speech. What a great acceptance speech.
So, and now I work at Westminster City Council, which is brilliant because, going back to my Greenwich feel, I absolutely love London. I love coming into London even though I live outside of it now. And it's just brilliant to have been part of a brand new initiative to help with developers and projects to actually try and minimise disruption.
So that's
in
the role.
Westminster.
So
and
that's the role at Westminster. Could you just elaborate a little bit more on that?
Yeah, of course. So it was set up actually 2 years ago today as a pilot, and it's about helping to ensure that any projects that are relatively near to one another can be coordinated in such a way that they minimise the disruption between them.
Okay.
So a lot of the things that I've done at Westminster has been for a lot of the big developers who may have pockets of work even stretching across the road, or two different developers across the road, and then trying to work with them. So if they need a particular utility to come in, we try and coordinate the programmes as such that together the utilities can roughly, sort of coordinate things like that. And also the other big thing, and I love doing it because that is where change can happen, is just where people, I always liken it to a translation piece. I've worked in utilities and I understand the process, I understand the procedures, and I also understand through breaking down regulation at Ebbsfleet, right, how things work, what can and can't be done. So as a consequence, when something stalls, it's quite easy for me to find where it's stalled and to unlock it.
Okay.
It doesn't mean that I make the answers, but it...
You're like a troubleshooter who can find that.
Yeah, and that role, went across. It's a pan-London role, very, very successful, is now on a subscription service way of actually doing it. So you can be a developer, pay for the service, and then you've got infrastructure coordination assistance. Wow. And the only reason why I've moved away from it is because I thought, I've done 2 years, and 2 years is a magical number for me. And I just sort of feel, right, now what's my next challenge? Because I need my brain to take on the challenge.
You've got one of those brains, have you?
Yeah.
You've got a sponge?
I have, yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. And I love the projects, actually, that they make you dive in at the deep end.
Okay.
And you've got to fight your way through.
So being outside your comfort zone.
Yeah.
A lot of our listeners and readers love to be able to test themselves, be outside their comfort zones, because outside of fear is where life begins.
Yeah.
Roles for Goals. I'd love to know more about Roles for Goals. And I know our listeners would. Can you talk us through that?
Of course I can. So Roles for Goals started actually in 2017, and it was born out of a need for myself and a fellow scout leader with our respective businesses to want to bring people in to our businesses to employ them. My one being a project management consultancy, Diligence, which is why you quite often see Nicola Coppen and Diligence with it.
So that's your brand that you created?
Yeah, that's my brand. And Alan, the co-founder, was very much into sustainability, and particularly Swanley in Kent, and where there's a prospect of regeneration, bringing into that regeneration some of the sort of climate sort of considerations, be it, you know, in retrospective fitting or in new things as old things are taken away.
Sure.
So they were our main focuses, and we couldn't get anyone.
Really?
And from my point of view, I do scout, so I do have access to young people.
When you say you do scouts, please explain what that means.
So I was a group scout leader.
Yep.
I've been all the roles in scouts, but as group scout leader, it's really nice because you get to look after the sort of the overview of the group. So it's not so much about the individual sections that the leaders look after. It's about looking after the leaders and the parents, I would say.
So a very strategic role.
A strategic role, yeah. And with that role comes the ability of finding out what people do. And when you find out what people do, it becomes very, very interesting as a scout leader to sort of, so you work in there. Will you come and tell the young people about it? And then you find that there are other young people who are doing some of the things that...
Would you say then that Roles for Goals came as a result of the scout work?
Yeah.
Is that what you would say?
I would, yeah. The reason why I say that is scouting taught me a lot. I went into scouting very late, really, compared to everyone else. I was still of the opinion when I went into it in sort of 2009 that it was for boys.
Okay.
Even though years before it was a girls and boys thing. And it was because my son had turned 6 and, you know, was joining beavers that I actually started doing it as a parent help.
Okay.
So then I ended up in uniform as a beaver leader, and then I went into group scout leader. But at the same time I helped with cubs at a different group, and, you know, sort of volunteering is something that I really recommend to people to find out more about their community, to find out more about all the different things that are happening in their community, and also to develop them as people, because you do things that you would probably never think of doing.
Sure.
I suffer with homesickness, believe it or not.
To Greenwich.
And so even doing a night's away was, you know, I had to get over it. Yeah. And
you're outside your comfort zone.
Yeah, and the thing is, it's a very safe way of doing anything scouting. And what that also leads to is you start thinking, well, yeah, I can take that risk because I think I can do it. And all of a sudden, the excitement of doing something new takes much more than, or if I say no, then I'm going to regret it. And I always say to every young person I come across, and I do work with universities as well, and I say to them, if you get to the end of the day and you regret that you haven't done something, right, it is the most awful feeling. Take an opportunity. If you don't enjoy it, you know that you won't do it again. If you take an opportunity and you love it, but you'd have never had that opportunity
without taking
again,
that leap and risk,
then you'd never know.
No.
And so many people, you know, the peer pressure is, oh no, I'm not doing that. And I say, you know, think about you for a minute. What do you want to do? You know, so, and that's a massive thing to teach people. So Roles for Goals found that in terms of project management, people thought of that of the TV show where Sir Alan Sugar and The Apprentice, he puts people together to do a task, and there's always a project manager as a leader, right, in a set period of time, and it's project management accelerated. So they're
the ones that normally get fired.
Yeah,
the ones that lose normally.
And that's exactly what people say. You see, they say no because we always see that project managers get fired, and so I explain to them about the accountability and responsibility that a project manager has, because yes, you could be fired, you could do all sorts of disasters, but actually the secret is to learn the trade just like any other trade, and then listen and try and think a step ahead. And if you can think that step ahead, you can almost see where a success will come, or or where a barrier might be that you're going to need to break down.
Yeah. So it's just about navigating, whether it's an overcome of an objection or a process problem, or actually taking something on. That's what you're saying.
Yeah, exactly. It's and for me, project management has taken me to worlds that I'd have never imagined were there.
Wow.
So I know loads and loads of things in London, and there's a bit of an irony because I know a lot of places by substations, or by a particular route that might have been by some previous river or what have you, and
because of the work you've done.
Because of the work I've done, I've seen like a lot of under London, not necessarily as much on top. So, but but Roles for Goals was very much about how are we going to give career awareness? We're not giving careers advice. We're not telling people how to do something. We're just showing them what the wealth of careers that are out there and what they could possibly link into as an interest, or because sometimes the old route was that your parent done this, so you took that trade on. And actually a lot of those trades in themselves have gone, or you've got parents going, whatever you do, don't do what I did. There's much more better things out there, and it's no wonder our young people get confused. And then if you add to that education and the fact that it's very limited in terms of what options they can take for GCSE. I used to have in comparison, quite a few different options compared to what they seem to have today.
Sure.
And then, of course, A-levels, if there's no interest in something, that A-level is not necessarily even going to happen at that particular school or college.
Sure.
And I have a big thing about geography.
Okay.
Right. My big thing about geography is that it's actually gone down in the rankings. And my theory behind this is Horrible Histories has done a fantastic promotion of history and saying exactly what it is on the tin. It's horrible. And it's history. It's some of the stories that you hear on there. It's done in a great way. It's it's engaging. There's singing. There's all sorts of things, and I love history. I took history over geography. When you talk to people about geography, it's very much, well, I don't need to know where the capital city of something is, or but you always need colouring pencils to colour in maps, or a point on an atlas where such and such in the world is. And so the word geography has actually no meaning today.
Wow.
And I would say, bearing in mind what we learn from the young people about the environment, about climate change, about, they're the ones that are insisting that their parents do recycle, reuse, and things like that. So actually, maybe if we just rebranded geography,
the name,
right, to incorporate the fact that it does plate tectonics, that it is about that, ecosystem of how things get from one side of the world to the other, because we all need it.
Plastics in our seas,
everything.
Wow.
Then actually, I think geography will be, up there with history.
Much more powerful, much more dynamic.
So that's, and I find it fascinating when I watch history information, but you always see history information. You don't necessarily pick up on what geography is even on the telly. Someone going to a particular country and feeding back what it is still only one little small element of what geography is.
So Roles for Goals in terms of the people and the age groups. Tell us a little about those.
So we have worked with young people. We've worked with people at primary school.
Okay.
Those that are doing the transition between primary school and secondary. Those that are about to choose their options or are going to be in the future. And then those that are coming up to sort of finishing GCSEs to go into the next stages.
So you've almost picked life stages.
Yeah.
A stage in life, which I remember, every single one of them was pretty scary, testing, uncomfortable, all of those things. So what you've done is pick those stages for those groups of people, so across those age groups. What next? What do you do next?
So what we do next is we look at, right, how interested are these particular people in what we would like to do with them in terms of sport. So, for example, and it's not necessarily that we have a set of primary school, students that we're doing something with. We mix age groups. Okay. And we worked with Dartford Football Club as our first one to be able to say, Dartford, what we want to be able to do is increase your footfall for the local community, give businesses the opportunity to actually do corporate sort of social governance to an element that's not just about advertising and giving you money, but actually getting something for it, and being able to sort of help the young people with their studies and with an understanding of where they might go with it. Now, Dartford Football Club was the first sustainable stadium in the world, right? Wow. And we lived very nearby Dartford, So I was really pleased. We were going around a few clubs, and a lot of them just weren't interested in what it was we were doing. So
you were taking the brand, the Rolls for Goals, to other football clubs and saying...
To say, if we can get sponsors, if we can get businesses to come and sponsor a match for you, but in this new innovative way, whereby actually the business may be there, but actually it's more important as a gift to young people.
Wonderful.
Then would you allow us to get there a lot earlier, allow them to have an understanding of how the actual football club runs and the facilities that you've got, and also telling them a bit about the stadium, because a lot of these stadiums, they are resources that the community can use, and it brings some income to the clubs, and then add to that the fact that it's match day and that the businesses who pay for it are the sponsor. The young people attend, they are coached we always used to call it teaching by stealth. So we were giving them sort of employability type, tips without them knowing that's what it was. How we would then get businesses to help partake was we would say, we'd work with the business as to what the theme might be, and then we would get the young people to interview the adults, the businesses. We were really lucky with our first one because they also managed to interview the chief referee quality chap, about football referees. They always interviewed the board, some board members, and the local leader of the council, all different things like that. And at the end of the day, they put that together in a publication that demonstrates for the business actually how they have done that outreach. Now, those young people meet the players, they feel like VIPs for the day, and it's really, really special. And if a club just does a few little things off of their own back with it, you will not believe how it reaps the benefit to the club.
It's not costing the club anything, is it?
No.
It's costing them time from the players. And if it's early enough, they're probably not in game mode yet. I played a bit of football and knew that as you were talking, I was thinking, my preparation for a match, how was that going to be? If I'm going to be talking to some children about them potentially coming into this environment, not now, not next week, not next year, but maybe in 4 or 5 years' time, and they look back on this with positivity.
Exactly,
fantastic.
And I can remember going on a school trip, going to a sewage treatment works, right? And even now, I laugh because when I was at Ebbsfleet, one of the things that we were looking at is how we could do a water treatment works for the actual area. And my thing was, well, you need the community involved in it as well. And we'd taken a lot of people down to Peacehaven because Southern Water have got, you know, I mean, they had lots of funding for
Yep.
you know, better seas and everything else. But the actual principle is there. Have people come and see what technology can do, what, you know, what that area is. And it's like a little mound, right? Because the sewage treatment works is actually underground. You can't see it. And there's a housing estate very near it. There's a children's playground right by it and things like this. And so when you're looking at the ways in which you think, well, you know, you wouldn't want to live near, no one would care about it there. No. It's all dealt with. The smell, you know. Yep. But I can remember my days of going to that sewage treatment works and thinking, wow, I never even knew this existed. You know, I love the background working of things. And sometimes I see that spark when we take young people to do these type of things with sport. So,
what does success look like for someone like a child coming into Roles for Goals? What you're measuring what you're measuring. Other people probably are measuring what you're doing because it's a not-for-profit organisation. And then you've got the child. So there are a number of people. Do you sort of look at it in that way?
Well, no is the answer.
Okay. You're just making an outcome for the child.
What we want to do is prove that the business who's sponsoring gets something, okay?
Okay.
Because it's not just about, you know, an advertising board and having that offset against costs, okay? It's about actually how have they become part of something in their community.
Okay.
And to me, there is a big difference between even buying a football kit for a local team and that actual giving time to, you know, let's face it, it's a potential future labour force for one or two or, you know, maybe more of them. The other thing we do with that publication that they do is we send that into the schools because the schools have something called the Gatsby Benchmarks. And Gatsby Benchmarks is about for the older age group, but we work on the principle that, well, hang on a minute, if we're doing it for all of them anyway, it's going to help some, and others it's just going to be something that's on their file to let the next school know that they've done this that's different. And what's really great about that is helping the schools achieve some of their business and employability and that, you know, effectively that careers advice piece within the real world of connecting with real employers is something that, you know, schools, colleges, you know, ticks their box, if you like.
So there's a win, and then
you've got the win for the club because you've not only got a day where, you know, that particular game's sponsored, but you've got an accessible way of a family day out that you're not necessarily... If you've got like a, you know, Premier League club that takes a lot of money for a family of four to go to, all of a sudden you've got something that's just on the doorstep so they can be home fairly quickly. And you'll be amazed the amount of these little grassroots football clubs, right, that when you get in there, first of all, they're bigger than that small thing that you had in your mind because it was just, you know, in one of the lower leagues.
Yes.
But actually, that sort of being nearer to play, nearer to the players, nearer to the fact that as these young people interview players and find that the players have got day jobs, wow, that's another new thing.
Much more impactful, isn't it? Rather than going down to, I don't know, White Hart Lane and seeing the guys on the pitch that they're almost untouchable elite.
Yeah, that's right. And I think that the real power in it is because you've got people connecting with people. And that's what it's about. Community is about people.
And many winners.
So, and yeah, exactly.
This is not just a one-trick pony. It's not a one outcome.
Yeah.
Wow.
And in April last year, Alan, the co-founder who done it with me, unexpectedly passed away. And so I was in a bit of a quandary, you know, shall I do it, shan't I do it? And his wife, who's so lovely and I'm in touch with and everything, Janet, and Rachel, their like daughter, you've got to carry it on.
Yeah,
he loved it,
yeah.
and you know, and so I've got someone else that helps now and has got, you know, the same passion as me. And what that's done is added this extra cog, okay, which is about, right, we're talking about the businesses, we're talking about young people, we're talking about the sport itself and, you know, the facilities that are there for this future workforce. What about the fact that there are actually players in those divisions that might be working their way up and those that might be on their way down? Okay, so the other thing we do is we're looking at doing, or we are doing, a way of actually you can, instead of sponsoring a player's kit, you actually sponsor a player in terms of, you know, mental health, speak up, you know, for things that might be going wrong. We put them in touch with people who are able to organise contracts for them, for image rights, for whatever they might need as a footballer going up. But most importantly is that safety net for those who don't make it.
Sure.
Right? There's only 1%.
Yeah, which is the majority.
That you know, are going to. And when we've spoken to people, the worst thing in the world, the most heartbreaking thing for me, is if someone decides that they're going to leave the sport because they've just been, you know, let go by whatever team it was that was actually telling them that they were going to be the next best thing.
Sure.
And that's something that's very, very powerful. Mm-hmm. And it's even more powerful when, you know, the likes of Charlie Sheringham, you know, when he plays at the lower division clubs now, and of course sometimes Terry Sheringham's there. And that's for the parents to notice Terry Sheringham, Peter Taylor, whoever it might be that's there. And the young people are just admiring this guy on the pitch who's taller than everyone else. And, you know, so the power is really about let's keep people in sport. Yeah, because even if they've been let go by, you know, one of the Premiership clubs or Championship clubs, it might be that playing at the next division down or even lower, they get picked up by another scout who then sees something in them to take them on another direction. So Dunmow Town Football Club actually was established in lockdown 2020, and Rolls for Goals have done a lot with them in the past sort of year, last season, to be able to kind of promote an even lower division, but that's got exactly the same aspirations as us.
Wow.
They want to connect businesses, people and jobs and play sport. So, you know, I think from a mental health perspective, among everything else, it's just a really lovely pairing. And we're just about to announce, if you like, so when this goes out, it'll be like the formal announcement of our supporting the English team for disability darts in adults. And that's something, again, that we've supported since 2017, but it's now a world trophy, and England are the holders, and we were able to sponsor them for that, and we're sponsoring them to go to Ostend very soon, in fact. So it's not just about young people, it's about opportunities for
the whole community.
We've done 5-a-sides with those that want to think about what they want to do in coming out of the military, and those days are very different to what our young people days are, but it's about showing that transferable skills and where they can fit.
You really are touching the whole of the community here, aren't you?
Yeah, that's the whole aim.
Wow, it's amazing. I would. I'm never usually lost for words, but this is so powerful. It would be wrong of me to carry on without getting you to mention how people can contact you, where they would go to look at Roles for Goals, the charity, the not-for-profit organisation. How do they do that? Can you tell them how they do that?
Yeah, of course. So, easiest thing, most people are on LinkedIn.
Yep.
So it's Nicola Coppen, Coppe, E for Echo, N for November.
Fabulous.
I don't know how it's pronounced because it's my married name, so I just say it however my husband says it.
Coppen.
But, And also we have a website, www.roles4goals, all as one word, .com.
.com.
Yeah. And also, by contacting me direct, nicola@rollsforgoals.com, or my mobile, which is 07743 816 725, or by looking at what I'm up to and popping up and going, I need to talk to you, and that happens a lot.
I bet it does. It does. Is there anything else that we've missed? Is there anything you would like to say or add that you think is really important that we've missed, or are you okay?
I would just like to say that it would be wonderful for businesses to connect, for schools, colleges, people who are looking to come out of the military, those that are unemployed or, just might be wanting to change their career, to get in touch, find us on, on the web, find us on LinkedIn, have a look at what we do and get in touch, because the help that we give is bigger than what they can offset that cost for. And we're also doing an initiative for Kenya in helping with women's sanitary products out there as reusable sanitary towels, which I know a lot of men will be like, but I'm trying to get them money, because actually for women in that situation and girls in that situation, they don't necessarily know about periods until they happen, and then they're distraught because they don't know what's happening, and a lot of them miss school. They will go and physically hide for days, and it's something that if we can break a taboo on, right, then that again is another powerful thing for women. It's about the only thing that I do that's not just about everyone. It's let's help educate in those countries that need that education.
I think there's about another 3 or 4 podcasts to talk about all kinds of things that you do. Thank you so much for coming in today and speaking to us. It's been fascinating and interesting to hear your journey, but also about what you do, about Roles for Goals. And I'd just like to say to our viewers and listeners out there on the British Business Podcast Series, until next time.